Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Izzy's Reviews. Welcome to my cinema dojo. I am your host Izzy, obviously. I am going to review a show that I can remember binge watching and getting into fairly late, as I didn't get into the show until after it was out of syndication. It's a science fiction police procedural drama that is more or less exploring the different amounts of conspiracy theories that we've all have read about or watched documentaries about, and it takes those specific conspiracy theories and gives them a kind of a different type of flair to it, and it makes it that much more exciting, if you will. The show that I'm talking about is Person of Interest, starring Jim Caviezel, and at first it had Taraji P. Henson and Michael Emerson. The show is pretty much about this computer genius Finch, who has built this supercomputer program that is designed to detect crimes before they happen. He built it in response to September the 11th, which was, as everybody knows, the horrific tragedy that occurred on that day. As I said, the computer is able to identify crimes before they happen, whether it's the victim or the perpetrator. And he has elicited the help, if you will, of a former CIA operative in John Reese, who helps him in helping the helpless, if you will, and also eliminating that threat that is attempted to eliminate the helpless. The show has a lot of humor in it, and there's a lot of characterizations that venture more into the witty back and forth banter between Finch and Reese. But there's also a lot of action in the show as well. And one of the things that I really loved about it and that captivated me the most was how I know there's a lot of people who felt that the later seasons became too, I guess, from their perspective, they felt that it dumbed down the material in order for people to readily assess it a lot easier. I felt that the later seasons became far more serious and darker and emotional on top of that. At the beginning of the season, it's more about Harold and Finch, like it is with any series. Actually, it's about us, the viewer, getting to know Harold and Finch and the purpose that Harold is attempted to, in order to get Reese to understand in terms of using this program for the greater good rather than attempted to use it for nefarious means. Reese is known by the media, if you will, as the Man in Black, the man in the suit, and he has I hate to use Liam Neeson's Taken quote, but he has a particular set of skills that make him a dangerous man for individuals who are seeking to cause harm to others. And Reese is quiet, he's reserved, he's confident, deadly, yet when he reaches that plateau of finally letting loose, that's when he becomes probably one of the most unstoppable TV characters in history. Jim Caviezel does a magnificent job as a character. There's that sense of lethal ruthlessness within him, but at the same time, there's also a very powerful sense of vulnerability with that character. With the beginning of the seasons, beginning of seasons 1, 2, and 3, and the earlier seasons, I should say, you have Jim Caviezel, Michael Emerson, and Taraji P. Henson, and they have such a wonderful chemistry with one another. You could obviously tell that the energy that is emanated from all three of them actually is what made the show so monumentally great with seasons 1, 2, and 3. There is a tragedy that occurs, and I want to say it's in season 3, where it's very emotional and powerful and dark. It's what actually separated it from other shows at that time. As the show progresses, well, even the earlier seasons, they introduce a character, Lionel Fusco. Excuse me. I want to say I want to say that's how you pronounce his last name, is Fusco. He initially is a corrupt police officer excuse me, I can't talk. Excuse me. He is a corrupt police officer in that department, and he is on the take with a lot of politicians and other corrupt police officers until he comes across Reese, and Reese forces him to help him with certain investigations that Harold has attempted to put together and also deducing clues. Throughout the progression of the series, he is becoming a lot more of an ally and less corrupt until he is no longer corrupt, and he gains the full trust of Reese, Finch, and when they introduce new characters in Shaw and Root. The later seasons actually is where it gets interesting because now they have a rival. There are other rival government agencies that have built their own supercomputer that is attempted to combat what the machine, which is Harold's creation, what the machine is conveying. And that's when the show really, in my opinion, is when it really gets good. Now you have other characters that have really true sinister motivations and are very similar to Reese and even Harold. When you have a character or an antagonist that is very much similar to what Reese is in terms of their skills and their ruthlessness, that's when the show enters into pure greatness of territory, in my opinion. Seasons 1, 2, and 3 are amazing television. You can't go wrong. Truly amazing television. Very fun, exciting, and emotional, and dark. When you get to seasons 4 and 5, it gets darker, and it gets far more emotional. I would have loved to have seen it go for one more season, but I can see why it ended just because of the fact that certain shows, when there's a formula that the show must attain to, or that the show has attained, and they have to keep on pace with, obviously that particular concept may get pretty boring to some viewers just because the plots are going to be repetitive over and over and over again. But I think it would have been far better if they had one more season. I think there was enough material for one more season for us to get to know the aftermath, for the viewer to actually experience the aftermath of what happened and what occurred in season 5. The introductions of characters of Root and Shaw is what propels the show into even greater success, in my opinion, because Root, played by Amy Acker, is anyone who's familiar with Amy Acker, she played Fred in the show Angel, the Buffy the Vampire Slayer spinoff, and she initially, I don't want to get into too much spoilers here, but she initially starts off as an antagonist, and she is by far probably one of the creepiest and most unpredictable antagonists that I've ever seen in the show. And needless to say, when she becomes part of the team, she is not one of those characters that she still maintains that sense of ruthlessness and antagonist, but at the same time, because she's part of the team, she is allowed to be herself. She's allowed to be more vulnerable, and she isn't afraid to get her hands dirty. And Amy Acker is a phenomenal and underrated actress. Seriously, underrated. Not only is she beautiful, but she's completely talented and underrated in her field. The character of Shaw, played by Sarah Shahai, and her name is Samin Shaw. She is a former ISA assassin who is very similar to Reese. She is that type of character who is cold and methodical and literally has no emotions. But then when she does show emotion, it makes it that much more powerful because you connect with her on a completely different level that you were ever expecting. There's a lot of cool scenes and a lot of cool dialogues and flashbacks where in later seasons the story is going. You see the story being told primarily through various flashbacks in terms of Shaw's past, Reese's past, Finch's past, and Root's past, and even Fusco's past. The backstory and the flashbacks is what really brings forth what truly ties everything together, especially once you get to the 5th and final season where everything comes full circle. And when everything comes full circle and all the clues come together and the purpose of the machine and the rival Samaritan machine, that is when the show enters into uncharted territory. And for anyone who is interested in conspiracy theories, this show is for you. This show toys with a lot of conspiracy theories in terms of the government, September the 11th, and CIA operatives and ISA operatives, and wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. It just makes you question a lot of things in general. And I love any show or any film actually that allows you or forces you to question the certain existence of things that ultimately allows you to think outside the box without feeling weird about it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with thinking outside the box to begin with. However, Person of Interest, a truly underrated show that ran for 5 seasons and I can't recommend it enough. Anyone who is interested in shows about conspiracy theories, and it's venturing into the realm of science fiction while also having a lot of action and drama and comedy. You can't go wrong with the show at all. And I sincerely hope anyone who has watched the show, please let me know what you thought about it. And if you have caught up or you have watched from beginning to end, provide a like on my YouTube channel. Let me know in the comment section what you thought about it. If you haven't watched it, that is a show that I definitely recommend. Most likely you will binge it. And the good thing about the episodes, they're not particularly long, so you can binge it in a quick fashion. I don't want to say it's something that you could watch in a week's time. I mean, you probably could, but I wouldn't recommend trying to sit back and watch all 5 seasons in a week. But hey, if that's what you're able to do, then hey, more power to you. But either way, Purse of Interest, recommend the show. Let me know what you thought about it if you have watched it. And when you do begin to watch it, please let me know on my comment section what you thought about it. Let me know on my Facebook what you thought about it. Provide a like, and you'll be hearing from me again. My friends, take care, peace out, and stay healthy. Adios.